Happy Engineer, welcome back. Zach here, and it's just you and me today. Before I get into it, I wanted to have a little public service announcement. Just a reminder, we want to hear from you. I absolutely love getting emails, getting comments, getting feedback from you about what you're loving in each episode, what questions you have, areas that we can focus the content, guests that you might want me to reach out to, get connected with, to have on the show. All of those things help us to create incredible episodes here on the Happy Engineer podcast. So just a reminder, if there's ever something on your mind, reach out. We'd love to hear it. Send me an email directly, zach@oasisofcourage.com. It's ZACH at oasisofcourage.com. I absolutely love hearing from you. And also, if you're getting value from the podcast, if you love what you're getting here on the Happy Engineer, do me a favor and share the podcast with your network. We don't have an advertising budget. We don't bring ads onto the show. My goal is to keep it that way as long as possible, probably forever. But that means we don't have a big budget to go out there and let other engineering leaders know what we're doing here on the show. So do me a solid. If this show is adding value to your career and to your life, share it on social media, share it with someone via text, and help us get the word out. Now, if this is the first episode you've ever listened to, this is not for you, because I want to make sure that you're getting tremendous value before you start sharing it with everyone else. But if you've been listening for a long time, do me a favor and help us reach more people. Now, I want to take you back to 2013. 2013, I was on a work trip to a small town in Tennessee, Cleveland, Tennessee, where Whirlpool Corporation has a factory, and it was an intense week for me. I was at the factory from early in the morning till late at night, every day, right in the middle of a product launch. I was one of the only people from our design team who went down. I was the technical leader on the project, and we were undermanned. It was incredibly stressful. The project was delayed. We were already under the gun, doing multiple daily report outs to senior leadership on everything that was happening through the prototype building, getting ready for this pilot build and everything happening. It was wild. On the one hand, incredibly stressful, incredibly challenging, and was burning me out. On the other hand, I really enjoyed the pressure. I was one of those people who would thrive under the intensity of those environments. But as you can imagine, when you're in the factory, you're not on your phone, you're working dawn till dusk. I had zero connection to the outside world while I was gone. Well, I got back to Michigan where I lived after a long week, and I expected to walk into the house to, greet my wife and get into the weekend. And instead of that, I walked into an empty house. And I walked into the kitchen pretty confused that my wife and my dog were not in the house. I was expecting them to be there. And on the kitchen table was a note. And written on that note from my spouse was the most devastating content, the most devastating words I've ever read. And in short, it said, "I don't think this is working, and we need to get a divorce." Well, that moment for me was the beginning of an immediate and steep downward spiral to rock bottom. And I remember sitting on the floor, basically collapsing to the ground when I saw that note, sitting on the floor in the kitchen, crying, and asking myself the question, how did my life end up here? How is it possible that this is what's happening to me right now? This can't be happening. Now, back up a little bit. I was a top talent engineer coming out of Purdue into Whirlpool's leadership development program, a rotational program. I was a straight A student in valedictorian in high school. I had incredible, 3.9 whatever GPA at Purdue. I was the guy that everybody said was going to be so successful. And then I married my college dance partner and sweetheart that I'd fallen in love with at Purdue, and everything was going to be this fairy tale ending. And here I was just over 5 years later, looking at my life, falling into this, black hole, this abyss of despair and depression and embarrassment. I mean, I was truly embarrassed. How in the world did Zach White, the guy who in the high school yearbook was most likely to succeed, how did I become the person whose life I wanted to trade with somebody else? It was incredibly, incredibly tough to come out of that place. And okay, why am I telling you this? Because in our lives, we have these inflection points, these come to Jesus moments, these things where we hit rock bottom and we have a choice to make about how we're going to move forward. And it's not easy. But these moments happen. And they create, the testimony, the story that gets all the press and makes a great podcast. But how you respond in those moments is what dictates whether you have that success story, that hero's journey, that testimonial that you can go share in an interview later and say, hey, this is where my life turned around. Or for some, it's a place where we grind along rock bottom for a long, long time. Or what you think is rock bottom is actually just a ledge and it falls even deeper from there. And I don't want that for you. And so I want to share with you a couple of things that I chose to do in that moment that I honestly believe had the biggest impact in turning my situation around. So if you can relate to this, if you're in one of those moments now, maybe you've been there before, or if you think it's possible that you might be headed towards that burnout moment, you might be headed toward that relationship ending if you don't take action now. Here's what I want you to know. You do not have to wait for rock bottom to make a change. You don't. Okay? Most of us, unfortunately, do wait until it's too late, right? Until it's irreversible damage. But you don't have to. And so even if you're not in that place today, I want you to ask yourself what trajectory you're on in every area of your life, in your career, in your intimate relationship, in your family relationships, with friends, with your health. And ask yourself, is it possible that I'm headed toward that moment? And do I need to make these decisions now to make sure that it does not happen to me? Here's the first thing I did. I got up off that floor, blew my nose, wiped my face off, and I picked up my phone and I called my sister. Now, you may not have a sister. That's not the point. Here's what mattered most. I called my sister and I told her the truth about what was going on. I told her that my marriage was collapsing, that it looked like I was going to be getting divorced, that I was absolutely burned out and depressed and embarrassed, and that I did not know what to do. I was lost. I was confused. I was broken. And I told her that. It was the first time in my adult life that I told someone who loved me the whole truth about what was going on in my life. You see, my marriage had been struggling for years. The truth is, I was on a slippery downward slope for a long time, and I was not stepping up and taking action. I didn't know what to do to build my career and my life and my marriage and my health and all these things. It was so hard. It was so confusing. Nobody taught us how to do this thing called life. I had multiple engineering degrees, and I had no idea how to solve the problems that were happening at home. I had multiple mechanical engineering degrees, and I had no idea how to build my career without creating this downward trend toward burnout. They don't teach you those things in college, and I was suffering and struggling in my life and keeping it a secret. I was hiding it from the outside world. I was loaded with this belief from a place of ego and arrogance that I got this, that I can figure this out. If I just use my intelligence, if I just keep trying, somehow I'll figure this out. And by the time I realized that wasn't true, it was too late. Well, I picked up the phone and I told my sister the truth. I stopped keeping secrets. And that is the first and most important thing I want to encourage you to do if you're in that place, or if you need to short circuit and get ahead of ever getting to that place. It's to tell the truth. I use the phrase being fully known. Is there someone in your life who you are fully known with? They know everything about you. There are no secrets there. And this is not just a wife or a husband. This is someone else as well. I really do encourage you to have someone outside of your intimate relationship, because a lot of times the things we need to talk about is our intimate relationship. And so you need that brother, that sister, that best friend, that counselor, that therapist, that coach, someone who you can tell the whole truth to and have no secrets about what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what kind of results you're getting in life. Keeping secrets, being a hero and a lone wolf, does not create the life that you desire. So, I told the truth. That was step one. And let me tell you, the weight that was lifted off of my shoulders in that moment was immense. I still did not know the path forward. But I did know that there were people who loved me and people who were supporting me, and that I could finally stop pretending that everything was okay. That I could finally just be myself and be truthful with the people I loved, that this was going on. Now, I want to make a really quick distinction here that's super important. Telling the truth and being fully known does not mean blabbing your garbage on social media and seeking the attention of people who have no business and have not earned the opportunity to fully know you. I'm talking about a conversation in real life, on the phone or in person or over video chat, with those people in the inner circle of your life who have earned your trust. So please do not hear this as sharing all your junk of what's going on in your life on social media. That is not being fully known. That is attention seeking, and it's not at all this. That was the first thing I did. Now, here's the deal. Yeah, the weight was lifted off my shoulders. Yes, I felt immensely better after that phone call and a lot more tears that came with it, but it did not make the problem go away. I still had a divorce on the horizon. I still had this sense of embarrassment and shame and no idea how to move forward. So I did something else. Step 2, I asked for help. In this case, I called a counselor who I knew and I trusted. One of my best friends had worked with him before, and I set up my first appointment for just a couple days later, their first opening. I probably had an emergency opening for new clients who needed it, and I booked that time, and I set aside the money, and I set aside the time, and I made it happen to go get help. You've got to get your ego out of the way and ask for help. All right? Don't try to do these things on your own. So often when we're on a downward trajectory, we don't want people to know. It's embarrassing, and I get it. I've been there. I've lived it, but I asked for help. And then I also asked for help from my family. Hey, can I ask you these questions? Will you give me a place to stay? Hey, Mom, can I get your extra set of silverware as I relocate and I don't have some of these basic household essentials through this divorce? Little things, but I asked for help. When you need it, ask. It's not a sign of weakness. And this is something I didn't understand. My whole life, I thought that needing help meant that I wasn't strong enough to do it on my own. And now I know that it is the exact opposite. Asking for help is a sign of strength. It's a sign of esteem and self-worth. And the great Les Brown, if you don't know who Les Brown is, he's one of the greatest motivational speakers and personal development coaches of all time. He has spoken to auditoriums of tens of thousands of people. He has impacted millions of lives through his work and through his public speaking in his career. And I was in a mastermind with Les Brown, and he and I were just talking and exchanging ideas. And this idea of asking for help came up, and I told him the story that I just told you. And Les gave me that look that only a seasoned veteran of personal development and motivational speaking can, that grandfatherly look of wisdom. And he said to me, "Son, you ask for help, and you keep asking for help until you get it. Not as a sign of weakness, but as a sign of your strength." And I just took that to heart so much in that moment. I said, wow, that is so true. So I want to give that to you right now, from Les Brown to Zach White to you. You go ask for help, and you keep asking for help until you get it. Not as a sign of weakness, but as a sign of your strength. Those two things turned my life around. When I was at my come to Jesus moment, when I was hitting my rock bottom moment, I told the truth and I asked for help. I stopped keeping secrets and I let my ego go and said, I don't know what to do. I need help in how to move forward. And those two things were the catalyst to radical transformation in my life. And the rest is history. Yes, the recovery from the grief and the divorce and all of those things took time, but I turned the situation around and I had the support that I needed to get my emotional health back, to get my career trajectory back, to learn an entirely new set of skills that ultimately became the basis of what's now my full-time work here at the Oasis of Courage, and it's tremendous. But it all began with those two decisions. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. What secrets am I keeping? Where am I not telling the truth? Where am I not fully known? And who will I have that courageous conversation with? Maybe you need to get a counselor or a therapist. Maybe you have a best friend who you can tell the whole story to. Make sure that it's a person who is deserving of your trust. And then, who do you need to ask for help from? Ask for help. Don't do it alone. There's nothing new under the sun, and the problems that you're solving today have been solved by someone else before. Yes, your situation is completely unique, and there's no one like you, but also, yes, there are people who have gone this way before, and you can learn from them and short circuit. You can go faster. You can make it easier. Don't learn every lesson the hard way through your own failures. Learn from my failures. Learn from the failures of others who have already overcome what you're facing. And here's my last point. It's a reminder to you. Maybe you're not at rock bottom right now, but you don't need to wait until you are to take action. If the trajectory of your life is not what you want it to be, and the sneakiest one is a flat line. It's when you're not growing, but you're also not falling. That is a really sneaky, stealthy, dangerous place to be. It's like the good to great problem. Good is the enemy of great. And when things are just okay, when you're plateaued, it's all right. It's not good, but it's also not terrible. It's fine. My career is fine. My marriage is fine. Everything's fine. I'm just okay. I'm just making it through the week. That's one of the most dangerous places to be, because you can fall off that cliff at a moment's notice and not realize how many things have gone wrong. And that is exactly what happened to me. I thought that everything was just fine in my life. And when I left for that trip to Tennessee, I had no clue that I was going to come back to the beginning of an immediate and steep descent towards rock bottom. I had no clue. So don't wait until that happens in your life to go get the help you need. Take action now. By the way, if you're on an upward trend, I want to celebrate you. Thanks for sticking with me through this conversation. I hope it's still encouraging to you. And here's a word for you. If you're on an upward trajectory, if things are going great for you, it's a whole lot easier to build momentum when you have it than to create it when you have none. So put more energy into that flywheel and still take action on these same two things, because it's more power for you where you're at today, no matter what the starting point is. And if you want our support in your career, if that's where you need help, that's what we're here for. I would be honored to do that. Just reach out. Let's take the first steps. Text the word lifestyle to 55444. We'll get you set up with the first steps in how to build a roadmap to your future in your career, a future of success without sacrifice, a future of reaching that next level you desire in income and an impact without sacrificing your life, without going toward divorce like I did. We want that for you. We'd love to help you. So grab your phone, text the word lifestyle to 55444 if that's you, or share this with someone who needs it if you know that this is exactly what they're looking for. I appreciate you. I want you to experience the good life and more of it. But it doesn't happen if we keep secrets and if we try to do it on our own. Don't let your ego get in the way. Let's do this.